Hi everybody, it's Kerry Stead once again bringing you coverage of round 3 of the 2013 Australian Open Chess Championships from North in Cammeray. This time we're going to have a look at some action from round 3 and some highlights from some of the games. Of course, before we get there, we need to once again thank the sponsors for the event: Hancock Prospecting, North's Leagues, Ridges North Sydney, Australian Chess Enterprises and Chess Discount Sales. Looking at some of the games from round 3, we're going to start with this position from the game between 2012 Asian Singles Champion Ton Lukemire and International Master and recent Australian Olympiad representative International Max Illingworth. Max has actually won a pawn in this game reasonably early on, and Ton's been fighting fairly well to try and hold the position. He's obviously still a pawn down here, but if you can find a way to trade off those two pawns, even at the cost of a pawn and the bishop, he can probably find a way to draw the rook and bishop against rook ending. And in this position, he's played the fairly natural looking king f4, again looking to head towards that pawn on f6. Max plays seems like a reasonably logical move, which has a little trick hidden in it: rook f7. And after the natural bishop f6 to attack the rook, Max has played rook back to f8. Ton's then continued with rook h6 again to pressure that f pawn. Max has started to get that extra b pawn moving, playing b5. And then Ton's played what seems like a very natural move, king f5. But unfortunately, there's a rather nasty tactic at the end of it all. Max plays bishop takes f3, and Ton plays the natural-looking rook takes f6, only to find that Max has a tactic that wins the game. He plays bishop g4, and this is going to, at the very least, win in exchange, if not trade off both the pieces on the board, which is going to leave the b pawn free to promote. So yeah, very tough effort, very strong effort put up by Ton Lukemire in this game. Obviously, if king takes bishop, rook takes rook, and the king's actually cut off on the G and H file, so it's going to make promoting the pawn very easy, or at least forcing Ton to give up the bishop for the pawn. And even if you play something like king to, let's say, king e5, you can just play rook takes f6, bishop takes on g4, and then maybe something like rook over to d6, and again just cut off the king, use the rook to keep the king at bay, and push the pawn. So nice win by Max. A good fight by Ton, but unfortunately not quite enough to secure the half point. Next game we're going to have a look at is the finish of a game between David Webster and women's grandmaster Irene Sikander. And this position's come from a king's Indian attack, and it's a fairly normal looking position. No one's really got any particular advantage. And here Webster played queen to f3. Seems like a fairly natural move, maybe increasing some pressure on the diagonal, also a bit of pressure down the f file, but in itself doesn't look like it's that bad a move. Sikander develops her last minor piece with bishop b7. Webster plays rook to d1 to protect the d pawn, and Sikander now finds a very nice combination, which is not completely forced, but definitely gives her a strong advantage at the very least. Pawn f5 attacking knight on e4. Obviously the knight doesn't have many squares to go to, so it retreats to d2. Pawn to b5 to attack the other knight on c4. It retreats to a3, and again the pawn goes up to b4, again attacking the knight on a3. And this is where David's actually played a seemingly natural looking move that has pretty horrible consequences. C takes b4, and all of a sudden after knight d4 he finds that his queen on f3 is actually trapped. So a very nice little combination there by Irene to win the game fairly quickly. And a bit of a surprising queen trap very early on in the game for David. To finish off the round review, we're going to have a look at a game between Michael Morris and Kishore Sritharan, where after a fairly quiet opening, Michael has played f4 and the game's taken a very, very different characteristic very quickly. Kishore's played the unusual move here, bishop takes g1. After rook takes and d6, Michael's closed off the king side with f5, and with the rook already on g1 we can see that Michael's got a pretty straightforward plan of playing g4 and g5 fairly early on to try and steamroll the king. Kishore tried knight a5, queen came out to f3, pawn to c6, bishop g5, knight takes c4, d takes c4, and the apparent fork, queen b6. Obviously the easy way to get out of that is to castle queenside to defend both the rook and the b2 pawn. And now Kishore's played a bit of an unusual way of trying to hold the position together. The issue that he really has here is that the queen side is very difficult to develop. He's obviously got issues with worrying about the knight on f6 and what's going to happen on the king side. And although he'd like to be able to play a move like knight d7 and maybe knight c5, it's not entirely sure that he'll be able to do that in time. It obviously takes a couple of moves, plus he's still got to play a move like bishop d7 and then try and castle queenside, or maybe play f6 or something like that to try and get his king safe. So he played the somewhat unusual move king e7, and here Michael again played that fairly natural move that we were talking about for an attack, pawn to g4. The queen returned to c7, the bishop retreated to e3 where it was probably going to go anyway, and here Kishore's really made the first, well, it's already a very difficult position, but it really starts to go downhill after the following move, knight d7. And again you can see the big difference with not only where the king is, but just the general activity of the pieces. You've got a rook on a8 and h8 that haven't moved, the bishop on c8 that can't move, the knight on d7 doesn't really have that many good squares, and the queen on c7 probably the best black piece, again really isn't doing all that much, and the king's not in the best position at all. So Michael's followed it up with pawn to g5. The rook on h8's come across to d8, and now that all the pieces have actually left the black king side, fairly natural response of queen h5 to attack that h7 pawn. Kishore plays knight f8 to try and defend it, and then a very, very nice little move here by Michael, and the combination that follows to finish off the game. Pawn to c5, obviously attacking the d pawn, and he's also got threats of playing f6 check and the like here. Kishore played b6, and from here it's very nicely finished off. f6 check, pawn takes, king has to retreat, goes back to e8, rook g8, very nice move, pinning the knight and threatening a move like bishop or queen to h6. Kishore tries playing d takes c5, and a very, very nice finish here for Michael Morris. Queen takes e5 check. Best defense here I believe is actually to play bishop e6 and king d7, sorry, not even that. Yeah, bishop e6 is still going to get into a world of trouble after obviously queen takes queen, or bishop takes bishop h6. But a very, very nice finish here. So obviously the queen pretty much must be taken, and then rook takes f8 check, only move is to take, rook takes d8 again, and only move, queen has to block, and then bishop h6, king g8, and rook takes e8 mate. So a very nice little finish there for Michael Morris, probably the best finish that I've seen so far this tournament, and a very good result for him to put him back up with the leaders. That's going to wrap up the round review for round 3. Don't forget, if you can't make it to the venue, the best place to follow the tournament action is on the internet. The tournament website, you can see it there, the Google site, 2013 Oz Open Chess. The best way to get there, or the easiest way to get there, is through the North Chess Club site, northsydneychess.org, or you can follow some of the reports on my blog, melbournegamescoach.blogspot.com. Once again, thanks for listening.